desert, not diving with Scuba.
Just before we get started, a message from our sponsor. Yeah, the people that make this YouTube channel happen. It's AC55ID, the fastest growing electronic music marketplace. Whether you're a music fan, an artist, or a label, this is relevant to you. If you're a Bandcamp user, any of those three categories, this is a pretty great alternative to Bandcamp. So you can buy music there, you can sell music. They have very competitive rates across all of their pricing. There are no commissions, in fact, so you keep all of your sales from the platform. You can also listen to podcasts on there, including this one, and podcasters get paid 1 cent per stream. That's pretty great, actually, and it's the only platform that does that. 1 cent per stream is standard across the whole of the platform, so if you're not happy with Spotify and all of those guys, well then AC55ID is the platform for you. Most excitingly though, perhaps, they have their own pressing plant, so you can fulfill orders on demand as an artist or a label with AC55ID. That is pretty amazing, I think, and we're going to be doing stuff with them on Hot Flush Recordings, and this is just a platform that I am a fan of, generally speaking. So they're supporting the show, but I am totally on board with the whole thing. So head over to ac55id.com to check them out.
Brought to you by AC55ID.
Welcome to the show. I'm Scuba. This is Music Not Diving. Okay, onwards and upwards with the new show. You may be aware that we used to be an audio-only podcast called the Not a Diving Podcast. We did over 150 episodes with that, with all kinds of different people from the world of electronic music, from all sides actually of the business. So DJs and producers, but also PRs, label owners. We had some promoters on there, different people basically. We've been talking to people so far on the new show that I haven't had on before. There are a couple of repeat guests on the Not Diving podcast, but thus far we've been having new people, been talking to new people. This week on the show, we are welcoming someone who did appear on the Not Diving podcast. It is Elijah. He was on episode 41, so a couple of years ago now. He is one of the most interesting people, I think, in the world of UK music, certainly, and electronic music, generally speaking. He's one of the deepest thinkers, and he's kind of reinvented himself in the past few years as a thought leader. I'm not sure whether he'd go so far as to describe himself like that, but the Yellow Squares project has just basically caught the imagination, I think, of so many people in the industry, and also just fans as well. He's people interested in culture, everything, the whole thing, basically. He is, as I said, extremely interesting, and the conversation that I had with him back on episode 41 of the Not a Diving podcast was amazing. It was one of the best episodes, actually, of the whole show. So incredible to invite him back for a full video episode in this studio. You're going to enjoy this one. We get deep into various different things all across the world of electronic music and culture more generally. We even touch on professional wrestling actually as well, which people who were fans of a Not a Diving podcast will know is a particular interest of mine with regards to culture and that sort of thing. But yeah, as I said, this is great. You're going to enjoy it. So let's get into it, shall we? But just before we do that, a reminder that you can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/ScubaOfficial. There are two very reasonably priced tiers there, the more expensive of which gets you a Bandcamp subscription, basically, but via Patreon. So all the music that we release on my label, Hot Flush Recordings, and we have some affiliated labels too that you get all the releases to. So that's a good thing to do if you just like good dance music, but also, of course, you get the knowledge that you're supporting a really good podcast too. If you don't want to subscribe to anything, well, then you can bung us a one-off donation if you like. That would be massively appreciated. ScubaOfficial.io/support. There's the links in the show notes to all of this stuff. There is a Discord server you can join, hotflushrecordings.com/Discord. We'd love to see you there. And, you could also just leave us a review. Anyway, you're listening to this, leave a comment to this video, subscribe to the channel. I never say that, but actually that's the main thing you're supposed to say on YouTube, isn't it? So yeah, like and subscribe. That's about it, isn't it, really? So without further delay, let's head over to the studio and talk to Elijah. Elijah, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back, actually, because we've obviously done an episode already in the previous incarnation of the podcast. It was a couple of years ago, though.
Yeah, I had a lot of real life feedback about that podcast in particular. So Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, a couple of years. So obviously stuff has happened in the meantime.
Yeah, I think we've had like 2 prime ministers.
Right.
The city's changed a bit. Released a book. And I can't even remember all of the things that have happened.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing a lot of stuff, right? I mean, the whole project, because I mean, I suppose when we first talked, it was relatively new, wasn't it, the Yellow Squares thing?
Yeah, I think we spoke in 2023. So it was maybe like halfway through the project. I feel like the Instagram version of it is kind of complete now. I don't post any yellow squares anymore. And I thought,
Okay, I hadn't actually noticed that, but obviously that's true. But I mean, they do occasionally come up on your Twitter feed. Was that very much, this is done now, let's move to phase 2?
yeah, I think there was going to be a point where either the platform changed or like the algorithmically thing just changed around it, and I just didn't want to just only do that anyway.
Yeah.
And I think just stop in it, quit while you're ahead.
I mean,
I put together a book, like everything's in a book, and I don't want to work for any of these platforms anymore.
Sure. I mean, having said that, your Twitter feed is pretty impressive. In preparation for this, mostly what I did was just read your Twitter, and I was on it last night, and I'm reading, and there's so much interesting stuff on there. Like every post is like, okay, there's like little peripheral bits, and I'm on there for an hour, and I look at the date, and it's like the 1st of March. Like it's like 1 month of your Twitter output it's pretty impressive commitment, even if you don't want to be locked into a particular platform.
What happens when I have high amount of posts is because I'm traveling.
Right.
So it's like you're catching me in between reading, sitting down, waiting for stuff, being delayed, in some sort of connected airport, all of these things. So usually what you're seeing is that it's not me like sitting there like eating oats in the morning. It's like because I'm on the move, thinking, and alone most of the time as well. That's what it is.
I mean, traveling definitely does get you thinking, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now that so many people have cleared out, I feel like it's like more of a mood board than
of Twitter. You mean? Right.
And I think it's been useful just to there's just a few like weirdos left. Not many people are reading it, but then I can use it as like a reference point for myself.
Right.
Like, okay, I said this on.
Oh, okay. So it's
March
like a notepad,
1st.
right?
Yeah, it's like a notepad. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw you pointedly saying I'm not going to join a new platform, meaning Blue Sky, presumably.
Any. I think that'll be a good creative restriction for the time being. No new platforms. Just use what I already have. Instagram, X, YouTube. Nothing else.
So we talked about in that first conversation, we talked about the kind of purpose of what you were doing. So has that changed in any way with this since the sort of new iteration or moving from Instagram?
No. So I guess the original purpose of doing the writing in that way, so I was writing notes, sharing them on Instagram, kind of about creativity, about scene building, about everything, I guess, post-lockdown, like what we were coming back into. And then that wave is kind of complete. Like we got back outside, we kind of figured things out. People have started new communities, new businesses, new clubs, things have shut down. I don't know, I got to travel everywhere that had received the messages as well. So I got to go to all over Asia, Europe. I went to Brazil, a couple of places in America and Canada. I felt like I spoke to everyone that had kind of resonated with the work. So I was like, okay, well, I feel like I've got a lot of answers for those questions, or not answers, but yeah, maybe the curiosity has been kind of satisfied in that regard. And there's like loads of ideas in that project itself that could be projects by themselves outside of it being like the yellow square.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the international context is interesting because I mean, the majority, I suppose the context of what you do is obviously UK and London specifically. So. But I mean, I suppose when you put it in the context of the pandemic, like the experience was similar around the world. So, I mean, were there any surprising things that you learned from traveling around like mine and talking to people?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been lost in translation is people think what we do here works.
Right.
So
you mean in sort of like UK music and that sort of thing?
Like they would assume that I say like London, like what they see coming out of London, so like the platforms, the music, the musicians, the DJs, the producers, the artists, they're all doing really well, you know, driving Mercedes, whatever the things of success that they can see via the internet, it's just what it is. That's what the music kind of, or DIY or techno or house or grime or electronic music scene is. And I'm like, okay, what you're seeing is a very like, it's like the 1% of the 1% in the 1% city.
Right, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if you just drove 40 minutes outside of where I live, it's not the same. Not the same experience. If you went to Birmingham, Nottingham, Sheffield, Leeds, again, not the same set of experiences. So if you're in KL or Melbourne, they're like, oh, how can we replicate what you got in London here? I'm like, well, what bit of London are you talking about?
Sure.
Are you talking about the person that just recently went viral in Boiler Room? Or are you talking about the person that's been on NTS for like 8 years and trying to like figure out how to make this work as a career. Like which bit of the spectrum are you talking about? Someone that lives in Dalston paying £1,600 a month rent, earning £1,700 a month. Yeah. Like what bit are you talking about?
Exactly. I mean, people do romanticize the UK music scene, don't they? And they have done for decades, right?
We should. It's like a beautiful thing. And a lot of the time when sometimes I'm like arguing with people on Twitter or anything like that, it's like because we have something good here. I'm like, oh, why don't we like activate this thing more and like spread it out more across the country and promote it in a better sense than we do. Sometimes it feels like we have shame for it. It's kind of mad to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we actually talked about that on that previous conversation, the kind of the British mentality towards success and successful people, right? And how we support them up to a point and then it becomes, something which is something, I guess the attitude changes once you hit a certain level of something. I mean, it's not always money, but sometimes it's correlates to money.
We're a country, we like underdogs, and then we support, I think we broadly support people to a point, and then we kind of let them go, figure out for themselves. But then sometimes when I feel like we drop out the support of people with good ideas way too early, and then they're stuck in this no man's land of like not being Tiesto, and then not being like an underground hero. There's like such a gulf between the two things, right?
Right, okay.
And loads of people fall into this that have good ideas but don't have a mechanism to like make a living from it. Everyone's feeling, oh, this person's a legend, they're sick. It's like, well, but they can't like get onto a festival bill, or they don't get the brand gig, or do you know what I mean? Like,
I do. And as you were saying that, it kind of struck me that like, are the biggest stars in dance music specifically, we're probably underrepresented, right? Considering the perception of the UK as being this, absolute center of electronic music and dance music, we're probably not contributing what we should do to the top tier. Is that fair?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. So if you looked at say like an Ultra lineup or a Tomorrowland lineup, you don't see like maybe like a drum and bass DJ or a house DJ from the UK. You don't see like the MCs. Like I know like the relationship with electronic music is not the same, but okay, like why don't you see Flow Down on the lineup positioned in the same way, or why don't you see dubstep DJ there up? You know what I mean?
And even the DJs who are playing music, which is getting played on those stages, like so, the name that comes to my head is Ben Hemsley, right? Who's just massive in the north of England, and is playing music which would actually absolutely make sense probably on those big European and American festivals, but he's not there. I mean, is that because of the British mentality? I'm not sure if I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe it is.
I don't know, and maybe it reflects where we're at as an island as well. Small place in the grand scheme of the world now. So like the
Very
internet
really
retips the scales in terms of influence and power. And I find that super interesting too. Like when my friends that are releasing music in Brazil say, like, I just look at their Instagrams and it's like hot because the demographics are just like way in their favor. Like there's just like so much more young people.
Right.
They're like, oh wow, like you're getting like 1,000 comments on your new tune, whereas like a young rapper here wouldn't really get that. You know what I'm saying? Even if they're the most popular in the country, like just you can see the demographic imbalance here.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah,
we're a small nation of old people.
Yeah, and that's true for basically the whole of Europe now.
Yeah.
Right? Which is it's a scary concept actually, and the kind of perception of that has moved quite quickly, right? Because until relatively recently, people were just freaking out about overpopulation, and that's no longer a thing, right?
I think people don't. If you live in a city, you don't think that. So if you live in a city, it does feel congested, it does feel overpopulated. Yeah. But then I guess once you zoom out a bit, and I think what I experienced from traveling around and seeing the demographic differences, especially in club music. Like I've gone to certain places and I can just, you can see the top of people's heads.
Right. And
I won't say where the place was. And maybe this is just anecdotal. I mean, it's definitely anecdotal, but I can see the top of heads and it's like greys at the top.
Okay.
And then I asked the promoter, I was like, oh, what's the kind of average age here for like a club night? And they were like about 35. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting that something that is coded as youth culture or has been historically coded as youth culture is now not, which I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah, not necessarily.
As long as, but it's not the same as it being a youth culture.
Yeah.
back in the day. Like that's what most people think, club, young, youth. But we're not in that pocket.
Yeah,
right?
so that was something from your Twitter feed actually. I forget the exact quote. It was something along the lines of your favorite artist might be closer to 40 than closest to 20, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the same thing, right? Because I mean, if the movement is not being driven by teenagers, right? Because I mean, historically, that's what this stuff basically was, particularly in the UK, right? Because the crowd, I think, compared to Europe, has generally speaking been younger. You know, if that's no longer the case, then I suppose innovation will come from elsewhere.
Yeah,
if it's going to come.
and that's why, like, when I speak to my age group of people and they speak about what the young people should be doing, I'm like, no, you should be saying what we and older should be doing. Like, if older people stayed in the club longer, the actual ecosystem would be better because generally they have more money, they have like the ability to spend, move around, fly, have the kind of disposable income. To be able to do things, whereas the young people clearly don't. They're paying student loans, they're paying higher rent, they're, do you know what I mean, in a bit of a more of a kind of techie situation. Not the best language, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But it'd be easier for a lot of ideas to function if there were more 40 plus people in the space.
That's something which is definitely true, I think, about UK versus Europe too. People drop out of the particularly dance music ecosystem earlier here, basically. And there is definitely that kind of mentality that, you know, I'm 27, I can't go to a club, which seems, I mean, it seems absolutely ridiculous. But people definitely think like that, right?
It's 18 to 24, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
And then the
right.
to 24 afterwards dip is high. That's what I noticed from running nights back in the day. It was like, okay, I finished university, I go to a few things, go to a couple of big festivals, and it's like, now I'm going to knuckle down and be an adult, be a real thing.
You're right, as if music and dance music in particular is some inherently immature, frivolous thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not true, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
Exactly. But maybe if people, I guess if you came into it in the first place and thought, okay, I'm 18, I'm going to go to clubs until I'm like 70, how different you would enjoy them or behave all the way through, rather than you're, I guess, like when you're 18 coming in now, you think it's a young person, thinks you, I don't know, all you can eat it, and then you're like, right, cool, I'm done with this. Or you maybe enjoy it occasionally. So you like, this person I can think of is like one concert, one club, one festival a year. That's like enough for most people now, you know? And I don't think this is a bad thing, and that can work if that runs from 18 to 70, not 18 to 24.
Sure, absolutely. Have you detected in the last couple of years, and you talk about the pandemic in the context of the Yellow Squares project in the pandemic, I mean, one of the things which is kind of poured over increasingly now is the effect of lockdown and the restrictions on kids, and the kids who are, you know, at secondary school now and are kind of, I guess, in, you know, young adults now, or just, yeah, I mean, in their late teens, early 20s. Have you detected on your rounds a difference in mentality between this cohort and previous ones with regards to this stuff?
Yeah, I think maybe because of the kind of project that I do and maybe the way I interact with people on the internet, I find people asking a lot of questions that I just would have asked before, in terms of like what to do creatively, or how to do it right, or how to communicate, or how to build something. And I think, oh, like why did I never ask these questions? I was just doing stuff, and then that was the building, and I didn't feel like I needed to confer with anyone. I feel like I'm doing the right thing or need any kind of confirmation. But because the exploring being an artist or a DJ or a producer is being boxed into like a career kind of led kind of this set of decisions now, there has been like this kind of standardization of the ways you should do things. And the later half of the Square project was me trying to like unwind that for people. Like, no, like don't just follow the instruction manual of how to DJ or how to be a producer or how to gain a following on the internet or how to build a community. I was just like, no, like don't do that. Like this is crazy, because if you're doing it like that, then there are 1,000, 10,000, 15,000 people trying to do the same thing. Right. I literally, sometimes I watch the YouTube videos of the things that people say that they've watched just out of curiosity, and I'm like, okay, so this is where you're getting this from. And I'm mindful of the work that I put out. I'm like, well, this idea needs to try and fit creatively for however many people follow me, 10,000 people. and it can work 10,000 different ways, not post at 6, selfie before algorithm.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Oh God, yeah.
the hook, all of that stuff. It's like, okay, that works when it's one person doing it, but it doesn't work when it's 10,000. And it doesn't work if you are maybe in a fishing village in the south of England, or if you're in like the corner of Canada. That, I mean, it's like it just doesn't work. It works when you're maybe in East London, but it doesn't necessarily work if you are in like just outside of this little bubble.
Right. It's the concept of people trying to learn from the available materials, which are informed to a large extent by a paradigm which only exists to a certain extent now, and even in that case for people much older than them.
Exactly. And there's this logic, I mean, it's in loads of different things, where the industry is some sort of static thing. Like, there are these amount of clubs, there are this amount of agents, there are these amount of festivals. If you do this, you get the booking. If you sell venue, you sell ticket, you get access to it. Like, it's like the industry is a lot more dynamics, fast moving, people coming in and out. All of these plans just get torn to shreds when someone drops the thing that just blows everyone out of the water that no one expects. You know?
So this reminds me of DJ AG, and your bullishness on him, which I have to say is completely justified because he's fucking awesome. You know?
Yeah, imagine like DJ AG.
For people who don't know who he is, can you just explain?
Okay, so I did this set of posts about a guy called DJ AG. I said DJ AG is the most important DJ in the UK. He is someone that DJs in the street, live on TikTok, mainly in King's Cross and Brixton, 3 times a week. He has artists, all different scales, coming on and doing songs. That's something that kind of just developed last year. And what I noticed, first of all, is if you reverse engineered this guy, if he asked me, hey, should I DJ in the street, streaming live on TikTok in Brixton? I would say, no, do not do this. You'll get shut down. The police will come. Someone will steal your equipment. Like, why would you? This is insane. Like, why would you do this? So again, you would get advised out of that, right? And then he had artists, all different scales, coming on. So people literally just coming up, plugging in a USB, playing an instrumental, performing. Imagine the amount of chaos that introduces to the live show, the tech, everything. And then gradually, these artists that like no one knew, like moments started going viral. Then the big artists wanted to come on a platform. So it had this kind of self-replicating thing of like, okay, well now Jamie and Skepta's come on, or you know, whatever, like a big Americans come on, and it keeps on blowing up the thing. He was in Jamaica last week, really? Okay. Seeing all these different artists perform. But dialing it back, I thought, okay, the most important DJ in the UK, not being someone that is focused around selling tickets for clubs and festivals. Yeah, how can the most important DJ not be someone that is based in the club or doing radio or on NTS or has not had a boiler room or anything like that? It breaks all of those bits of logic. And I think that is what we're all looking for. We're looking for like, oh, that's it. It's like someone's just broken all of those.
What makes him important? Like, is it like what's the kind of contribution culturally? Because I mean, yeah, absolutely, the impact is completely there for all to see. But what makes it important?
He's flattened the gap between the famous people and then just new talent. Right. So again, if you get onto a Boiler Room or a GRM Daily Duppy or One Xtra or whatever it's going to be, you have to have had some sort of moment already, like somehow. He's given people an opportunity to create that for the first time, and I think that's good. So on the same show, you can get just a random talented person rapping over their new tune, and then get whatever, Jamie. That's good. That's like what pirate radio used to be, but without the walls, and then with the visual and in the street. Right. Like the combination is just like, oh, it's just beautiful.
And this is the difference between the available distribution now and in pirate, because obviously people are looking at their phones. TikTok is the most popular app. You have to have video, engaging video, as we've discovered moving to video on this show. Like, it's completely crucial. And Pirate Radio didn't deliver that, and it's not a surprise in that context that Pirate Radio is not a significant factor in the same way that it was.
Exactly.
But something like this can absolutely move the needle with people, and has to.
And his personality carries it as well. This is not something that I look at him and I think I could not do that. And that gives you another level of respect, right? He's going there, DJing in old people's homes and like making people feel happy through music, which is like what we're trying to do in some aspect.
Yeah.
But as there wasn't,
I mean, that's a big part of DJing.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that we didn't think of like, say like bringing well, I guess my music is definitely not appropriate for old people's home. So like when I see these videos, I'm like, oh yeah, that is the power of music. And again, it being outside of Fabric or Ministry of Sound or Drum Sheds or Park Life, it's like, oh yeah, like there's all these people that you don't see on Instagram that maybe have been forgotten or they're not thought about by the general public. It's like that, a DJ illuminating that, it's like, yeah, man, like that feels important.
Totally. So this overlaps with a yellow square, Keep London Loud yellow square, which was originally Interesting Cities Aren't Quiet or something.
Yeah,
like that.
interesting cities can't be quiet.
Can't be quiet, yeah.
I was just walking down the street and I thought, oh yeah, why do people stop blaring music out of the car? Like, why did that happen?
Right, you were talking about that yourself as well, yeah.
And I was like, is it insulation of like sound? Like people just have their windows up and people blasting tunes, but we can't hear it outside. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like young people don't drive as much.
Definitely a
anymore.
factor, yeah.
And then, yeah, people are not kitting out the cars because they're leasing them. So you can't mod them that in the way that they used to.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's 2 levels. But then I was like, okay, that's one layer of like sound that used to come out. The things that a lot of us live in, it's not, we can't, like if you live in a new build in East London or wherever you live, you can't sound system out one of them things and play it without someone knocking the door. Like, trust me, I've tried.
Right.
And if I play my thing above a certain, like my door will knock. So eventually I've just ended up not really playing music loud at home.
Yeah.
But then if everyone does that, then you don't get there's no bass line coming through the wall at any time, which was a big part of my life growing up.
Yeah. I mean, like to what extent is that do people just have different expectations now? Because I feel like that's true. Everything you said makes complete sense, right? And when I remember back, I remember there's music everywhere and probably quite annoying for certain people, you know, but it was absolutely there. And people, I mean, no doubt people did complain, but seemingly without too much effectiveness, you know?
Yeah, just like, within reasonable kind of hours, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, sure, before 11 or whatever.
Yeah, like on my road growing up, like I could hear certain bass lines, like the slang term bass line. It's just something that I just think, it's like my, like a hum that's been in my life.
Sure,
like
exactly.
I feel like that has been just constantly going, whether it's going for us because a car or like these things. And then there was a certain point in the night where it just stopped and it's fine. But now, if I heard that, I'd be like, raw, like someone's playing music.
Right.
Instinctually, I'd be like, where's that coming from? And like, where's that? Like, that feels new. I don't know what that is.
When people in other cities and around the world think of London, they don't think of that.
No.
You know, they do not think of people complaining about bass lines being played too loud at night, right?
Yeah. When I went to Rio, I was during Carnival, but like just hearing music all over the place. You're like bam, 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 bam. Like you could just hear that sound all the way through the city. You're like, okay, cool. It sounds like I'm in Rio. Whereas I feel like you can go through the city, you can go to restaurants, whatever, office spaces, and I'm like, you could be anywhere. You could be in Sydney, you could be in New York, you could be in Paris, if you just closed your eyes. Because like when I was downstairs, I was just like, I closed my eyes, and you can like, okay, this is bad, not good. This is the cafe everywhere sound. So I'm like, what would be played here if it was just London? And then like Yo Soul came on next. I was like, okay, cool. That's also something I hear everywhere. What would be played here that wouldn't be played everywhere else? So.
Is there something to address here? Because a lot of what we talked about, a lot of the things that you talk about, generally speaking, you tend to focus on stuff which something something can be done about this, right? Resources can and probably should be directed in this direction. This seems like something which is not easily solvable.
No, I don't think it's like something to generate ideas out of more than something to solve. So a lot of the things that I try and post, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to be constructive or generative. It's like, okay, what idea does this give you? Okay, cool, sick. Like I didn't even think of that. Or like when I build installations, or like when other people are building installations, they say, oh, this influenced this thing. I'm like, okay, I never even thought of that. Like say if someone went to mod a car in 2025, what would that look like? A crazy sound system car, like what would that be?
Yeah.
And how would that sound? And why would you organize it differently to maybe what people did 20 years ago in a Volkswagen Golf? Like, what would that be? So, the squares are not there to answer all of the questions. It's just to ask a question and then see like, okay, we can get 1,000 different answers. And that feels like the most interesting thing, especially with that one. It's just like an observation, keep London loud. If we get quieter, you don't get it back, you know? You keep pushing this. Lower decibels, less clubs. Okay, like where was I? I was somewhere, and even this is like maybe the opposite point, but it was just me and a person sitting in a coffee shop, and they were like blasting this music. It was like Earth, Wind and Fire, and I was like, "Do you want to listen to this?" They're like, "No." I was like, "Why don't you just turn it down a bit?" And then they were like, "I'm not allowed." And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "What would you play if you could play something?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't even know." Like I was like, "Oh, that." So this is just going right through you. Like this is not helping you, it's not helping me. But you've like made something loud in your life, or like this venue has made something loud that no one even here even wants.
Right.
And
Some 50-year-old record.
50-year-old record, which is like a good record. But again, it's like inappropriate occasion and not even making anyone get any joy out of it. So there's loads of ways you can pull this.
Sure. So the question that I wrote down next to this, which is not completely related to it, but probably peripheral. Small clubs and the pressure that they're under. Do DJs, and particularly DJs with a following and some pulling power, do those people have a moral obligation to play small clubs at least occasionally?
No, they can do what they want.
Okay.
Just don't lie and say that you will do stuff and
Right. Okay. Yeah.
then not do it, or say like this is the corniest thing that I see every cycle. Like the DJ social media is so predictable, right? You develop, you break, you blow, you go and play some big venues, and then you go, oh, like I wish I could play some small venues. It's like no, you don't. Like
You wish you could get paid the same to play a small venue once a year, maybe.
And then sometimes I'll say, oh, what venue do you want to play that you can't play?
Yeah.
And then it gets a bit fuzzy because all those places are closed. They don't exist anymore.
Right.
So now you want to play in a club that doesn't exist for money that is not possible and for a price point for the audience that is not practical. Or they'll say, oh, well, if I did it, I would lose an opportunity to go and play that thing. It's like, well, yeah, that's why you're playing Brixton Academy and not playing...
right.
You know what I mean? The Alibi or wherever the small... I don't even know what the small club is that people are even missing. I don't even know. Sometimes I'm like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Like, where do you actually want to play that you can't play?
Right.
If you want to do it that badly, just go and do it. Like, they say, oh, my agent and my manager, and it's like, or Live Nation or something. It's like, bruv, it's not hard. Like, you can literally call up your agent and say, hey, can we just do like a little chill Thursday thing at MOT and like with a couple of my brethrens, and then we make it £5. Yeah, we're going to lose like £1,000. But I don't care. I've made like 200 this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like, who cares? If you badly want to do it, but don't put it on the internet like some sob story, like, oh, like I wish we could bring it back. It's like, well, you can. Like it's not hard. It's just opportunity cost. Yes, you're not going to make $40,000.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we talked about last time was vinyl.
Yeah.
And a project you've done recently has been to, I think, catalogue all the Black British music which has been released on vinyl in the last year or whatever.
No, so what originally happened is in my, maybe we'll talk about this later, but in my critiquing of what is played on like Black British radio or Xtra radio, I was like, okay, first of all, let me make a playlist, like a Spotify playlist of just 100 Black British records released 2020 to 2024,
right?
The songs. just to prove that there are some there that they can play, right? And then I was like, okay, let me just extend this to like 1,000 Black British songs from the past, whatever, 30, 40 years. And then I thought, oh, that'd be, I got halfway through and I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. Let me just do it with 1,000 Black British records, like the actual physical records, and just seeing what was available indiscriminately. I think what I was trying to do with the playlist as well was make it like the taste thing. And I thought that wasn't relevant so much. I thought, let me just see who made stuff, who was here, what existed physically. And then I started doing that gradually and just collecting what was out there. And I went into like shops just to see what was in. And it was easier to find like Peruvian jazz than like jungle.
Yeah.
It was just like insane to me.
So actually this is interesting because to some extent this reflects what shops stock.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I mean, I've had a conversation earlier today on an episode which I won't mention because it will be coming out after this one. But the person in question is a well-known jungle producer actually, and releases vinyl on his label, but they only sell on Bandcamp. So it's not visible in the physical realm, certainly not in the retail space anyway. And the distribution networks have changed, particularly for that kind of music anyway, that particular genre. So talk about that.
Well, what it's doing, at least visually, is that you're going into shops and you're like seeing Dr. Dre 2001 or Fleetwood Mac Rumors in 2025. I'm like, well, if all of us distributed just a little bit, then at least we're in the store, we're physically there. Even with albums that like some of the major artists have been releasing on like big independents or on major labels, I went to Rough Trade and you could pick up like a few, like 2 or 3, and then I bought the rest online. And even they had to go and order it from the labels. So like they didn't even have it in stock.
Right.
And I found that super interesting. So even where it's like a self-perpetuating thing, right? If it's not in the shop, then no one's going to go to the shop to buy it.
Yeah.
Then no one's going to order it. Then the store, it just, okay, well then, and then when you go into the shop, the only thing you can buy is Dark Side of the Moon. So, well,
Right, yeah. I mean, that is the vinyl resurgence, such as it is basically represses of records from the 70s to a large extent, and the occasional Taylor Swift album, which no one wants to listen to on vinyl anyway.
Yeah. And
apart from me, maybe.
But you know, in even just going to these shops, I was seeing what people were buying, and they didn't seem price sensitive. Like I saw someone literally pick up the Charlie XCX Brat remix vinyl, buy it and leave, and then I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's like £55.
Right.
So I was like, okay, they just want that, and I think this is a good thing.
That shrink wrap is not getting broken, right?
Yeah, but I think this is like a good thing for artists even to see that their price point in their head, or what they think their value of their art is worth, is like internal. Like someone else might just go, all right, like, yeah, 30 quid for an album, can't, like, it's fine. Like when I released mine, I was like, I don't want to make my album cheaper than a rum and coke. So it has to be like £20. If you can find a rum and coke for £20 in London, you probably can. But I was like, nah, like there has to be more expensive than a drink. And that logic, you know, with when you say like when you're releasing music or merch or anything, I was like, no, man, why is the art cheaper than the drink?
It says something about the art.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It does, yeah. I mean, price is it's a signal as much as anything else. You know, you're trying to sell something, yeah, of course, but you're also saying something about what it is that's being sold. This is the Louis Vuitton thing, right? You never put anything on sale because it cheapens the brand, right?
Exactly. And like, maybe with the book and the record, it's like I have this reverse thing where you can listen to it for free if you want, or you can read my work for free if you want. But then if you want to pay or you want to like support it in some way, then I'm giving you a mechanism to like support it at a level that would actually be supportive. Genuinely. Like when someone buys the book, it actually moves the needle for me financially. And I think this is good, rather than someone sending me £1 on Bandcamp.
Right.
You know, it's like more annoying more than anything. I don't see any artist framing things like that, but I don't know. I'd rather have £25 than £1.
Yeah, right. I mean, this relates to there being no such thing as selling out anymore, right? This is in the same area anyway.
Sure.
Which is something that I've struggled with and talked about quite a lot on the show actually. And you know, in the context of, I mean, I'm you know, I was born in 79, I'm 45 years old now. 90s were my, you know, my kind of like, you know, formative era. And the attitude in the 90s, as everyone knows, was like, if you sell out, then your career is basically over, right? I mean, people were militant about it. Absolutely. And for some reason, and there are lots of reasons for it, of course, and some of them are completely understandable, it has shifted. But your take is that this has run its course, perhaps, or maybe it should have run its course.
I don't think that thing is connected to selling out necessarily. Like, because there's things. One of the hard things about some of the ideas that I do put out, and us all as artists, people don't know what we say no to. So the things that I decide to do are reasonably considered.
The reason I suggested it, maybe it was linked because it does have some relation to the value people put onto themselves.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And it's, I think, again, in British culture, we struggle with like asking people for money or asking people to buy stuff or you know, commit. This is why, like, I feel like my generation, we started labels and parties and all this kind of stuff, and then this generation has started communities and charities and CICs and more co-ops and all these kind of things. Whereas we were like, well, we were already kind of doing something philanthropical. We just needed money. That was like the kind of mechanism we needed to do to continue. Whereas these are like, nope, we don't care about money at all. Like, we're just completely detaching. I'm like, okay, but then you still have to end up working with brands and companies anyway.
Right, because it's slightly different, isn't it? Like, it's not so much the rejection of corporate power, which is, I think, is basically what that kind of 90s version of it was. It was like saying fuck you to the corporation. This is much more, like you say, I think community-led and kind of like cognizant of people's individual circumstances. Is that fair, do you think? I'm not sure if that's quite the right way of putting it, but what do you think the motivations are of those people who are doing those things?
I think a lot of people and a lot of us are just seeing the unfairness and injustice on the world, on the timeline and in their day-to-day, and they don't want to put something in the world that is going to accelerate that or like just going to contribute to that. So they want to put something good. And then I guess the introduction of money to that feels like an immediate compromise from the off. Right. Whereas I think like with Butterz, for example, that wasn't a consideration. Butterz was just about music.
Right. You
know what I mean? It wasn't like, I guess it was my political beliefs and where I was at in life and all these things filtered in, but it didn't start there. It started, because I just like that music and want to be involved in that thing and DJ and play records. Whereas I feel like people are starting from a very different like set of logic in the first place.
Right, okay. Yeah, so music is no longer the primary, I mean, it's there and it's a key part of it, but it's not quite the be all and end all kind of defining thing that it might have been previously.
Yeah, and I find it super interesting as well that like, I had all these other interests, but I didn't filter them in as much. Whereas I feel like that is because of the timeline and all these things. You can see what people do. Like you see like this skiing club and chess club and this thing, and I'm like, okay, cool. And they filter music through those things. Whereas we were just like, here's the music.
Right.
whereas
now,
now,
where's the tune? Where's the big tune?
Yeah. Whereas I guess now today we're like, okay, there's the diversity of activity is a lot wider. Like, so this is why, again, how does the small club isn't really competing with like big club really. It's actually just competing with going on a nature walk or a hike or a skiing thing or the chess club or the karaoke thing. It's not competing with drum sheds. Like this is like a false logic. And I will always argue, people always disagree with that, which is kind of fun. But
well, we'll talk a bit more about that. Yeah, what would you say to someone pushing back on that?
Because I think the logic of there are these amount of clubs, there are these amount of people, and they'll be dividing the people into drum sheds, small club. If we had more middle-sized clubs, then there'll be more people to split between. Like there's like basically some sort of club population. Yeah. Whereas I'm not really in belief of that in any meaningful way. I think if people will go out if the idea sits with them, it doesn't matter if it's a big club or a small club. If you can sell it, it's fine.
Totally.
So the idea that, like, when I'm trying to think of something that is not music related, but let's say Tiesto was at Drum Sheds, he's not competing with Elijah at MOT.
Right.
We know this.
Yeah.
So why I don't know why people fight me.
There might be someone who was playing at Drum Sheds who could take some of your audience, say, presumably.
Yeah, and again, like even on the bottom end of the spectrum, when people say, "Oh, that they will," it takes certain artists out of the market, like because they will go and play like, for the bigger venues, which is true, but then it's on them to go. I don't want to do that this year. I want to play the small club, and if they are choosing not to, then that says everything you need to know.
Well, that was the reason why I used the term moral obligation in that previous question, because I think you could pretty easily make the case that there is, to some degree, or at least there should be, and people should take some ownership of the health of the wider scene, right? I mean, that sounds a really pious thing to say, obviously, but I think it's true, right? People should fucking take some responsibility.
Okay, I'll give you an example of this. Like, I spoke about this in 2021 when I first came back on the internet and got roasted. And it was when people were talking about, diverse lineups and things like that.
Right.
And I was like, I have no interest in this, like, because I don't care about any diversity apart from diversity of the money. Like, tell me how the money's been divided, not how the lineup has been presented.
Okay. Yes.
The headline is still getting 80% of the door.
Because
so
the token booking gets paid nothing, basically.
Exactly.
Always, yeah.
And it actually makes it worse. I feel like that thing I've been in situations where people have invited me to be the token thing, and I will ask these questions because I guess I'm in a fortunate position where I can ask them and not have professional consequences that are meaningful to me. I can say, well, yeah, what's the split?
It's interesting. I've asked people before. I've asked people. I've talked about gender diversity with female DJs quite a bit on the show. Certainly,
Yes.
In the early episodes I did, and I asked more than one woman. Let's not use the word female because people don't like that. I asked more than one woman whether they'd ever felt that they'd been booked as a token, and every single one said no.
Interesting.
It was like just didn't want to engage. I'm not sure if they were telling the truth. Probably weren't. They were bending the facts a little bit there. But it's interesting to hear you acknowledge it explicitly. Like, what does it feel like when you realise you've been booked as a token?
Well, it's not just in terms of bookings. It'll be like in terms of like when people invite me to do like a panel or like you are the representation of something that we are not, and that be clear. Like, that we okay. We've got, these archetypes that people even set themselves up for. Like, I'll be on Zoom sometimes and people will say, oh, I'm a middle-class white male with glasses, because some of the times you have to self-describe. And I'm like, is that helpful here? Like, sometimes it is, and sometimes is irrelevant.
I mean, there is information there that's useful.
But I'm like, okay. And then you can see these things where people maybe will make this kind of like an excuse for why they're there. They'll say, oh, or I'm a privileged person because of this. And if I went on stage in maybe like 2021, 2022 and called myself a privileged person, people would be like, no, you're not supposed to be the privileged one here. You're the black one. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I am like privileged.
Yeah.
In my own way, I'm rich. I have a very rich life, rich tapestry of experience, and I'm very like blessed to be here. You know what I'm saying? And like this idea again of rich and wealth being simply down to like money is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? The reason that I guess my opinion or point of view is even validated is because I have something that someone else cannot buy, and that makes me wealthy in a different way. You know what I'm saying? And this is that struggle is like with people like adjusting to someone maybe thinking that and saying that out loud is like really hard because it's like not something they're usually confronted with. And I just, I refused and refuse to be in situations that position me in a like non-privileged way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because no, I just won't have it.
It's unbelievably patronising, basically.
Yeah. I don't. But I guess when people get that feedback, they kind of get it, but then you're also like you're turning down an opportunity which they also don't understand.
Right.
They maybe think that I can't afford to turn down money or something.
So what are the questions you asked in that? You mentioned that you asked questions. What kind of thing will you throw out there?
I mean, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to get here?
As deep as you want.
Look, if I ask people like what the division of the money is here, and what they consider in terms of value brought to the table, it just shakes people. They're like, this person said there would be $5,000. I'm like, yeah, so I can just say that. What is it? Do you have like some sort of internal metric that makes that person 5 and me 1? We're sitting on the same panel. Why are they $5,000 and me 1? Like what? Give me a reason. No, they can't even think. Oh, like because maybe the agent has answered on their behalf.
Right.
I got to speak to you directly. You seem cool. I don't know, like maybe $1,000's enough for you. Like, whereas I'm like, no, like talk to me like I have 3 kids, a dog, a Mercedes, and a 4-bedroom house. Talk to me like that, not like your archetype or what you think I am. You know what I'm saying? I don't have those things. But if I just speak to me like I did, because I could, I'm
It's
like
completely plausible that you might do. Yeah.
I'm like in my late 30s, I'm a grown-ass man. Like, don't talk to me like I'm a 17-year-old, person looking for an opportunity, because I'm not. This is just not why I am.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, oh yeah, like actually, you are like have been around for an amount of time. I'm doing something that is as potent or relevant or interesting. That's why you're being invited. Why aren't we? Even if it's just dividing the pie equally among the group, which seems like not that radical.
Right.
Yeah. We've got this budget.
It depends
for
on
the
which
thing.
YouTube channel you're watching.
Exactly. and even for the other person, when no, this is like no disrespect to anyone else, but I've been in situations like this where I would be embarrassed to be in a situation where I'm getting paid whatever 4 or 5 times the amount of money if I'm just sitting next to someone talking. That would make me look stupid.
100%. Yeah.
And
100%. Yeah, it's different if you're on a stage and you're the headliner and people have bought tickets to see you play. That's a different thing, right? But there are situational nuances to this.
Yeah, if you're talking at a, I don't know, an annual general meeting for a sandals company, it's like, bro, just pay the money, man. Just so I'm not debate with you.
Yeah, right. I mean, you do speaking gigs now quite regularly, right?
Yeah, but only like if I want to. It's
Right.
again like I don't want those things to have power over me to a point where I have to like that's my only income or like pay my bills. I'll do it if I want to. That's it. That's my strategy.
Yeah, we talked a bit on the last conversation that we had about your personal business model, and maybe that's not something you want to get into too
I don't
deeply.
mind.
Are you still an artist manager as well?
No, so I finished artist manager in the 2024.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So recently.
Yeah, super recently. And I thought like, I did that for 12 years and that's enough time.
Okay. Stick a pin in that. I've never had an artist manager on the show yet, and we didn't talk about it at all last time.
Okay.
So let's explore that a little bit more. But speaking gigs, generally speaking, I mean, you can make a ton of money doing that for a start, but they do come with potentially baggage, right? Mm-hmm. And the kind of people that you potentially work with, it's easily compromising. I mean, how do you see to just get personal for a moment, how do you see your personal career developing in the next 5 years?
5 years. I don't think about 5 years because
Okay.
and the speaking thing is more going to be occasional than anything. I spoke to everyone I wanted to speak to in terms of the community things and people that are in electronic music and grime and people that have really with those things, I've just been like, make it work and I'll come.
Yep.
No judgment on fees, and anyone can vouch for this. You put on the internet, like I've not bartered with anyone. I just said, look, make it work, I'll come. just don't long me out on an invoice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Fair
And then with corporate things, people are like, oh, well, what's the rate card? And I'm like, the most amount of money physically possible.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Literally, like and that feels like the right way to balance this act. Like, not chart. You know what I mean? Not rinse my people, but then again charge something that I feel like is reasonable, good, deliver high value when I work for corporates, and that feels like the right balance. And for me, it keeps it fun and keep in the community aspect, because again, I'm not needing to earn from my people, and they can just have a good time, put everything together, and it be low stress. And then on the corporate side, to them, this is maybe not a lot of money. I'm not stressing them out over anything. I put high effort into the presentations and the way of thinking about things. I'm also like challenging and confrontational without being rude, I hope. And yeah, it just keeps things interesting. I'm not like some person that's gonna come to their annual general meeting and bar them up. I just not really. What's the point?
It's different going to talk to the AGM or talk to the board or whatever to being endorsed by a company, right? And as you were saying that's not something I'd really ever considered, because I've never, been on the list of people that might get invited to make such a presentation. But it got me thinking, as you were saying that, like, would I have any companies that I was not willing to talk to? Because talking to people is different. Like, there's no, as I'm saying this, I'm struggling to think of a moral reason why you shouldn't go and speak truth to power, even if, and maybe that's what they want actually. To say, to use the hype, the typical example, the kind of oil company, the evil, fossil fuels company. Is it morally wrong to do that? I don't think it necessarily is.
Okay, like, right, those things don't ask me, so I don't have to go through that internal battle. And I tell you one thing I wouldn't do is, if I did have a conversation or I did go and do something for that kind of thing, that I think what they do in the world is like more bad than good, I would also put it out there that I did that, and why I did that, and not have it.
You don't want to have that as a skeleton in the cupboard kind of thing.
No, I just wouldn't do that. But I'm not. I haven't done that. I guess there's things that I don't feel like I could add any value to. Like, I wouldn't, or like what could I say to like someone that sells guns? Like, I don't have anything for them, and they don't have anything for me. Like, there's
the business itself is
or there's certain things that maybe I'm just not interested in as well. Like, there's ends of the spectrum that I'm just like, I could do that, but then I'd have to go to like some random town and it'd just be annoying, and I don't know, like there's just some things I don't care about doing. I guess the biggest filter of most stuff is like, can I motivate myself to do a good job? If I can't, it doesn't sound that interesting. And maybe the person on the other end, if I can sense, even just from the approach or the email or whatever, if they are like someone that follows my work, or they're part of the audience, or they like Grime, or they came to Wire in 2016, or they saw me play at Eskimo, whatever, you can tell the contact point. Whereas there's some people that now they know me, they know of my work through speaking. They're like, I saw you do a good speech here or lecture here, come and do the lecture here. But they don't really know what I do or anything. And that's not a bad thing. It's a recommendation.
So it's a circuit, isn't it?
It's a circuit. But again, I never wanted to become reliant on that kind of thing. And that's the same reason as well as like also deprioritizing the square on my like socials, is because I was like, well, I didn't want to become reliant on that as my like thing that I do, and become like a one-trick pony. And this is like on my side, it would just be boring.
Yeah.
Like, I have to entertain myself here. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
So artist management.
Yeah.
It's very common amongst young up and comers to feel that they need management, and that it's somehow a kind of prerequisite to achieving anything. In my experience, most managers, not my directing experience, I should say, like people who have managed me have generally speaking been all right, but I have experienced indirectly managers who are not great, actually, to put it mildly. And, I think a bad manager is worse than no manager at all. But I mean, what's your observation about the, maybe now relative to when you started like 12 years ago, is there a difference in what a manager should add or offer now?
I guess for artists looking, I would look at what they do, like where is it that they sit in the industry, like what skills that they have, what like relationships they have, and then what can you learn from them and vice versa. It has to be like, you would have to be working with someone that you, I guess, view as like, I guess, some sort of equal peer or something like that. Like a lot of people, like a lot of artists, when they think about management, they think of an assistant to get them to do something, all the stuff they don't want to do. Right. When actually it's like, it is genuine. If in the best scenarios that I can see, it's more like a partner or working together on building a company with you or building like your ideas with you. So having like nearly like a duplication of yourself. Well, they can do some of the hard things that maybe that you can't do, or the admin and all this kind of other stuff. But they also are creative. They also have an eye for things. They also are in different places that you are not. They can see. They can bring things to you that, not in terms of opportunities. Like, oh, here's a gig with shoe brand. Here's money. Go and do it.
Yeah,
I'll take my 20%. No, not that. It's just like being able to be. They're part of things, so they see things and they're like, oh, have you thought about this? Whereas most of the time, that's not what people are looking for. And that kind of person usually doesn't want to be a manager either, because they're in some way an artist themselves. They're like a craftsperson themselves. They maybe have a job. They're doing something for themselves and their family and their goals and their ambitions. Yeah. It's really hard to make the incentives cross over. So like working with the artist I worked with, Flava D.
Particularly for young up and comers, right?
No, for anyone. It's anyone. Like it's hard to make your incentive align with someone else's. Like it just is. Like how do you pitch someone? How does anyone pitch someone? Hey, come and build a business with me. Okay, cool. Let's like split the work equally in the best case scenario. Yeah, but you get 20%. It's like, well,
right. Okay.
I ain't doing that.
Okay, yeah.
You don't.
Yes. All right. No, I see what you're saying there. Totally. Yeah. So it's basically a strategy role. It's core, right? And that's what is that fair?
I don't know. I think at least in my scenario, like now I'm looking back, I'm like, that was, I think it's just in its own way, it's just love for those people. Like and that's why I never like really managed anyone later, or like I just didn't want to take on anyone new. There's loads of talent I thought was good. I thought that would go places and have, but I never thought to explore that again. Like I just thought that those are the right people, the right time, I could pour energy into those things, but I don't think I could scale that for my temperament and for who I am as a person. I don't think, I couldn't just do it now again. I couldn't literally, when I say this to people, I don't think it's necessarily because I'm a bad manager. I just don't think my temperament would allow me to pour as much into another human.
Yeah, it's very sort of selfless thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And the people who are good, I mean, like there are not many people who are actually really good at it, I don't think. I mean, they have the kind of legendary, rock era guy. They're all guys, aren't they? Guys. Like, I mean, Shep Gordon being the most famous one because of the movie, right? And I suppose Brian Epstein as well, although he wasn't around for that long. But like, these people who seem to have this kind of, the reason I use the word strategy is because they seem to be able to sort of lock into what an artist should be doing. And I suppose it's sort of similar to the way Rick Rubin describes his production style, right? So he's not actually adding anything technical. It's more just identifying what should be happening and enabling it to happen.
Yeah, like clearing the path.
Right.
And that's for the most part, like I don't, there's no like credit for me to take out of these lots' work, you know? That's why I don't talk about it a lot, because
Yeah, you really don't at all.
I like I see some of those things. I think, oh, like that would have just happened anyway. Like they, and I just like helped, and me and Skilliam like, would like clear the path to allow that to be straightforward and to get that idea done. And that, again, I feel like, okay, we did add value, and we did do things that have like brought projects to life and changed people's lives, and built like a business around things. But at the same time, I feel like this balance of like it being them and them driving their ideas forward has been, like that's why I can't, like when I again dial it back, I can't take any like credit for like Flava D's success. She's just me and Skill cleared the path, made it like, tried to like, okay, you make the music, okay, just get out there, get your personality out there, and do the thing in the way that makes sense to you. And we tried to like, clear the path.
Right. I mean, that's probably playing it down more.
Nah, like I seriously, because like what's how I see them, and Swindle, DJQ, Flav, like even my own project, when if I just zoom out of like me and Skilliam's project together and Butterz and those kind of things, is if we had a manager involved in that thing, it would have made it worse, because we just didn't need the extra hand.
Yeah.
It was like us getting into the weeds and learning all this stuff ourselves that probably made that better. You know what I'm saying? And with, say, like, especially with Swindle, like, and his projects are a lot more technical and financially demanding and involved a lot more humans. It's like, if there was another human to manage or to take care of, it just would have made it harder. So one of the things that we probably just did with Cam's project, Swindle, is like just made it slightly easier for him, or easier for us to put out and do the business and all those kind of things. But again, like he would have cracked it anyway, man.
Have you ever had that sort of input yourself?
Well, I think they do. They are my feedback loop, innit?
Right, okay.
I've learned so much from them and their experiences.
Right.
So I guess I don't need a manager now.
Sure.
Because I feel like, okay, I've had all of this interaction with different people and like the ways I want things to be handled. Most of the time it's just low stress, just low bureaucracy more than anything.
I mean, personally, I have, certainly recently, the last few years, I found having management input is basically useful because they're able to step back and see things that I can't see because I'm too in the weeds. And it's more that kind of like bird's eye view, usually telling me not to do stuff.
Okay, that's good.
Or they should have been anyway. but for like, and you know, I think when you're anyone who's experienced, like they know how the nuts and bolts of it work. You know, they know how the things that should happen, and I don't know. Like I said, that's my experience of it. I mean, do you have that inkling at all that you could benefit from such? I mean, oversight. It's not quite the way.
Yeah,
like, it's almost oversight, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess like I've never had anyone like go, oh yeah, like let's work together on that level. So yeah, it's never happened. And people ask, oh, like, do you have a agent for your speaking? I'm like, no. So people just email me. That's it.
Right.
And I think at least for this phase, it's been better because when I'm speaking to people about doing these things, it's like, it's not, and speaking to young people, I'm like, I'm actually interfacing with the people that are booking these things. This is not secondary information. I'm getting it firsthand. I'm not just getting an offer sheet and done. Yeah. It's like, I'm literally speaking and negotiating on my own for myself. And I guess now if I was working with agent or agencies and all this kind of stuff in a meaningful way, what I'd want them to bring would be a lot higher than what I could do myself. And I've worked with like DJ agents. Like I've only had 2 agents actually, and they've both been great.
Yep.
Max Lee and Tom Dodd. And I've never like asked anything of them more than I feel like was required for me. I'm not like, give me more bookings. Like,
right. Yeah.
I always feel like, okay, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then their bit will work too. And for the most part, that's happened.
Sure. Okay. So we've been going a while already, and there's one major bit that is the bit that I actually really wanted to be talking about. But before we get there, you mentioned radio programming and how we should talk about it. So let's talk about this with regards to One Xtra, but also Capital Radio has been in your crosshairs more than once. Why do you hate Joe Budden's Pump It Up track so much?
Okay, okay, this has become a meme.
Yeah.
So, just dialing this down really simply, the BBC has a radio station called One Xtra, which is it's black music station. It's not going to
The way you said that, wow. Okay.
What? That's what the way it describes itself.
Yes.
This is not the way I'm describing it.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Okay.
Okay, for predominantly during the daytime, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., it plays majority of American music. Capital has...
Can I just ask you,
yes.
when did that happen? Because that wasn't always the case, right?
I don't know what the turning point of this was, but what I've been doing for the last year is just tracking what is being played.
Right.
And I find it just super illuminating in terms of what is being played and then what is like charting, what is touring, what is deemed to be a success. So that happens on One Xtra. Capital, like another kind of like a commercial broadcaster here, has an extra station as well, they call it, which plays black music again, majority American R&B and hip hop, all day, same like 100 tunes on loop pretty much. And now Kiss has the same branding with their black music station, and it's also called Kiss Xtra. So when I was growing up, there was this brand called Urban, which usually meant like R&B and hip hop, or like music people think young black people listen to.
Right.
So, and others, but predominantly that's who is making it or who is pointed at.
Yep.
And today, the extras, I guess to be some sort of signal between what young black people want to listen to in the UK.
Sure.
But that doesn't include a lot of black British music, which is quite strange. And they play a lot of old, particular, like from particular era, like of American R&B and hip hop. And Joe Budden Pump It Up is one of these songs. It came out in 2003, had 7 weeks.
Is it that old? I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Okay.
2003 comes, and it came out the same week as Boy in the Corner. And,
Right.
and had 7 weeks in the top 100. And it gets played every day.
Right, they're not playing I Love You every day.
No, exactly. This is a classic. This is a perfect example. And I don't think they should play I Love You every day or Pump It Up every day. I feel like a radio station that is, I guess, supposed to represent contemporary music, if maybe it doesn't, but you'd think would reflect at least the last half decade of the output of the country that it is in, at least.
Particularly on the state broadcasters.
On the state broadcaster. So here in the UK, we pay, I think it's like £12 a month for the BBC. And if the television worked the same way as the radio, you would have Friends on at 8 p.m. on a Monday instead of EastEnders. Friends finished 25 years ago. EastEnders gets
That
made
is a
every day.
perfect analogy.
Exactly. So we don't program television the same way we program radio for a reason, because it would be insane. It would drive us mad. And radio is programmed in a way that I have all these people mansplaining to me how radio works. Elijah, this is how radio works. Do you want to have a conversation with us? Do you want to come up to the office? And I'm like, no, I can just, however it's working is not working. And I said to someone on the weekend, I said, are you proud of the work that you do there? And they said no. So I'm like, so it doesn't matter what you are, what the rules are, what the mandate is. I don't care what it is.
What kind of arguments what are the corporate arguments in favour of this? Is it some sort of like...
If you lose a certain amount of listeners, then you lose the funding.
Okay.
Well, okay, if all of the policy has arrived you at playing Ja Rule and J-Lo and Joe Budden and Chris Brown on loop, then what does it matter if it goes to zero?
Right. I mean, it might as well be Magic FM, right?
It might as well. And that's all good. I don't care about Capital Xtra. I don't pay, like, I don't listen to it. I don't pay for it. I just find it funny. But when it's one extra, I'm like, oh, I pay for that. I feel like it should be better. And I feel like, why doesn't, the strange thing to me, I'm like, why doesn't anyone else in the industry say this? I have no dog in this fight anymore. I'm not managing artists. I'm not putting out music. Like, I can just say this, like, with no professional consequences. But for other people, for the artists, they all DM me, agree. People phone me every day, want to talk about it. But I'm like, why don't you say it? Why don't you start saying it on air? Why don't you start saying it in your music? Why doesn't your manager say something? Why doesn't your label say it? How is your label sending your music to a radio plugger and the radio plugger cannot plug you onto the radio?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, the BBC, and, you know, I'm generally speaking in favour of the funding model and the institution as a whole. I think it's not without its problems, but I think by and large, I'm okay with it. But it shouldn't be, or it should be absolutely, or hardly ever, I mean, at the very minimum, competing with the commercial sector, right? It should just not be, that should not be the primary business of the BBC. Like, it has to carry some, it has to have some responsibility to attract people, yes, because that's where the legitimacy comes from. But it can't be in the position where that's leading, like, the content, whatever, you know what I mean? That can't be the primary focus of it at all. And and in my opinion, that actually undermines the model itself.
Exactly.
Right? So
and it, just if you extrapolate this, if this continues for years and years and years, then the people that are involved and work there, they go, oh, but what else can you play? Or like, how else are we going to do it? That's what radio is. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, now we, you know, like this thing of like, when they say, oh, we forgot how to make something, or we forgot how to do something. Oh, like they had this, like these viaducts and this thing and the pyramids, and like, not to be like super mad, but like, like there are things.
Made those pyramids, Elijah.
Yeah. Like people don't even realize what we had before. Like, oh, we, as in this country, the people living in it were making and selling the music here in the country and internationally. And then we lost the shops. We lost the, I guess, independent radio, pirate radio. We lost the distributors. And then now the platforms are owned by American companies. And yeah, no shit, they prioritize their own output. We're on a tiny island with, again, a small young population. So our numbers don't stack up to my peers in America just because of the wider base. My peers, you know, back home and on the continent and in other places. Yeah, we're going to be at a numbers disadvantage. So the only way to rebalance the scale is, oh, we've got a massive publicly funded broadcaster. Why don't we use that as a mechanism to promote our own artists to the rest of the world?
Yeah, and a publicly funded broadcaster, which is one of the most trusted brand names in the whole world.
Yeah.
Right? It is unambiguously influential. Talk about soft power, right? There's very few instruments of soft power which are more powerful than or effective than the BBC.
Pretty much, yeah. And when I travel internationally now, when I hear people's current reference points for the UK, it would be maybe like something on Netflix,
right?
Which is fine. I'm not against that, but they wouldn't say something that they saw on iPlayer because they don't have access to it, or it was not something that they discovered through their portals, or even up and down the UK. People will be this week speaking about adolescence.
Yeah.
Or like a couple of years ago, it would have been Top Boy. Okay, I don't hear anyone for the resource and energy that it gets. It's like, what is the impact that it's having on the audience and the music it's supposed to serve? And any system that results in you playing Joe Budden Pump It Up in 2025 has failed.
Yeah. Okay. Totally agree with you. Right. Okay. So, final topic. Well, it's maybe final topic one, but the topic that I wanted to, I was considering putting this first, but I figured sometimes it's difficult for some people to get their heads around this. But professional wrestling makes regular appearances in your timeline and in your output, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I think it, to some extent, probably confounds some people. because it's not a very well understood cultural phenomenon. I would describe it as a cultural phenomenon.
Sure.
But like, talk to me about professional wrestling and how it relates to the music scene in the UK.
Okay, so I've been watching wrestling on and off since I was a child. I've always been interested in this thing they have called kayfabe, which is, I guess, the line between fantasy and reality. And for a long time in that industry, it was protected. So what you see on television is effectively plays out in real life. But that kind of broke down gradually, and then social media has kind of distorted that. Sometimes like people are in character all the time, like across socials, on the television, in any piece of media that you find them. And I find that super interesting. Like you see, there's this guy called MJF, and he's in character on socials, on television, in person. Like if you see him at a convention, he's in, that's it. And I think what's happened with, if I relate this to music, I think what's happened with social media and the centralization of the artist being the communicator of their work is everyone's been pushed to be authentic. And I feel like we've hit peak authenticity. We've seen how to make the tune. We've seen inside everyone's bedrooms. We've seen like every part of like what makes people human now. I'm like, can we reintroduce myth making, storytelling, war, beef, like all these different things that make something interesting to follow. So like if like there's all these different like things playing out in the world right now. I'm like, Grime had an enemy, for example.
Right.
It was all this other music. Like
Okay.
I was like, okay, like
Right. I mean, Grime's initial enemy was actually UK garage, wasn't it? That was
Yeah,
that was the
it was like,
conflict
yeah.
initially, because it was the legacy garage guys disparaging the music of the kids
yes.
and calling it the grimy stuff.
Yeah. And think about it now, the people that want to see that. Like you having a kind of adversity or enemy being like a creative driver. You know what I'm saying? And I remember even say like, yeah, dubstep is the same thing. It's like, oh, we don't want to, I don't know, like if you hate this like shit drum and bass or something. It'll be like, okay, we're trying to veer away from that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, an important extra wrestling detail here is the good guys and the bad guys, baby faces and
Yes.
heels.
Yeah.
And the heel character doesn't exist so much, as you've said, in music anymore, right? And actually, I mean, from my own perspective, like I very much in the early days of Twitter, I absolutely adopted a heel persona. So I would troll mercilessly and just be this kind of like pantomime villain, which is what a heel absolutely is. And at some stage, it was around 2012, I think, it just stopped working.
Yeah.
Like people just started getting genuinely offended and taking and being like, why are you like this? You're a wanker. You're a fucking arsehole, right? When all of it was to some degree,
You're
like
in jest, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there was a healthy degree of uncertainty whether anything I said was real or not, and that's what essentially the kayfabe thing is. And I mean, it's blurred into lots of different areas of public life now. But in music, I think you're absolutely right that there can be too much authenticity, and at some stage, even that actually sort of bleeds into this kind of like fantasy and reality thing. Because I mean, what gets passed off as being authentic now stretches credulity in quite a lot of ways, So
Exactly. And now I guess what I've seen happen with pro wrestling is that it interfaces with people not watching it and seeing it on social media. So I find that interesting, where before the people that were watching it were just watching it in their own bubble. That the clips never got outside of the thing. We just like people watched the TV, maybe went and watched a show, and that was it. Whereas now they know that people are watching it and clipping it and putting it on Twitter and putting it on Instagram and TikTok. So these things are becoming memes in just the natural state of every other meme now, and it's making the thing more popular. Like WWE selling crazy amounts of tickets
and they
for higher
moved
prices.
to Netflix, which
and
must
it's
have
on
just
Netflix.
turbocharged this thing even more, right?
Exactly. And you have like literally you have John Cena and The Rock, like they're actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about The Rock and his. What does he currently do in WWE for people who are not?
Okay,
aware?
so all right, I'll start with John Cena first because I think his journey is super interesting. In WWE, he's effectively been a babyface, a good guy for 20 years. And this year he turned bad. So this is the longest time a character has been a good guy and then at this scale and then turned bad.
And he's seen as being one of the kind of all-time greats, right?
Yeah.
As 16-time world champion.
Yeah. So he's they call him the GOAT now because he's had the longest career on top. So like most of us will know Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Stone Cold and The Rock, but their actual periods of time that they were like on top of the industry were like 5, 6, 7 years at max.
Yeah.
Whereas John Cena's like literally nearly 20 years. And it's been less popular through that period of time. But he's been...
I mean, Hulk Hogan, maybe you can make that argument, but it was in WCW as well. But
but even then, his literal period is like 85 to like 97. Sure. So it's not that, it's nowhere near as long as John Cena.
Yeah.
And John Cena, he's been a good guy for all of this time. And then he turned bad with The Rock. Like The Rock he sold his soul to The Rock, they said. And The Rock has been a bad guy for like the last 2 years. His
journey itself is interesting though.
Yeah, so The Rock originally started as a good guy and like the company were trying to like get behind him.
He's a third generation
wrestler. So his dad was a wrestler, his granddad was a wrestler. He comes from a wrestling family, which is even another layer of like why wrestling's super interesting. It's kind of like music. Like there's cousins, brothers, and it's just everyone, it's wrestling families. Anyway, when The Rock started, they pushed him as like we want you to love this guy. He's a baby face, like young, handsome guy, and everyone hated him, booed him. And then they turned him into like this corporate villain with the owner of the company at the time, which is another set of stories.
None of this is an endorsement of that particular person. But
and then he kind of had moments where he was like a heel and a bad guy, or a heel and a baby face. But he kind of effectively left the company in like 2003 and it became a Hollywood star. And then he's had short stints over the years doing it. But he came back last year, did a wrestling match for the first time in like over a decade. So he's effectively like one of the biggest Hollywood stars.
Interestingly as well, like his socials, he very much does the authentic thing.
Yeah.
Right. His Instagram is super wholesome. He's always like, kind of like, gotta work hard and do the best for your family and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And in that absolute way, and like, showing his kids and all that kind of stuff. It's very much that product.
But last year when he was doing like his run up to this match, he was promoting like a kid's film in like one post and then a tequila in the next post. And then saying that he was going to beat the fuck out of Cody Rhodes on the next post. It was like, I was like, wow, imagine you had no idea. Like some of my friends, like they don't have any clue of like what wrestling is and imagine just seeing that on your timeline. He's got blood on this belt and he's like, I'm going to beat like the living shit out of Cody Rhodes. And like, who is this Cody guy? Like what is this all about? Like,
he's also third generation, actually.
And he's also, he's second generation. But yeah, it's just a bizarre, like, I guess, layer of different ideas all at the same time. And with musicians, effectively what we're doing is like, his song, his EP, link in bio. I'm like, how do you compete with the guy that's like, how do you compete with Dwayne or The Rock Johnson? Like, how do you compete with his social media is like beating the fuck out of Cody Rhodes, selling tequila, Moana 2. You know what I mean? Like, it's like how do you
the undefeated Instagram account?
It's just ridiculous. And nowadays, I don't know. Like I guess the musician trend is like the photo dump, like trying to make 20 slides of like your last month interesting. And that's just, I guess, as close as you get. But imagine introducing like storytelling into that, introducing things that happened, kind of didn't happen, and just playing around with perception. I do this all the time. Like I say to people, man, like, I don't wear black all the time. Like sometimes people see me and like when I'm just on ends and like, oh, what's going on? Like, and I'm like, oh, that's so strange. Do you think I wear black? Do you think my name's not Elijah? Or like all these things. Like just think about what's happening here. Like his name is not Dizzy Rascal, believe it or not. Right. There was something invented to present to you. Yeah. Whereas now, like all the DJs now have like their name as their name. I'm like, you're DJ Dave. I'm like,
Okay.
All right, cool, bro. I'm like, like that's why when I saw that horse girl, I was like, okay, someone's doing something. Like someone was like, fuck it. Like
She has been discussed on the show before.
Okay,
Not always in
I don't care.
obliging
Like,
terms.
yeah, but it's just it's like it's interesting.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure. And I don't know about the music or anything like that, but again, that's just taste. Most of the time when I talk about this stuff, it's not. I'm not looking at it for taste because that's subjective anyway. I'm just more looking at it as someone's doing something interesting. In my world, it's like Cass is dead. He's never out of character. I've done shows with this guy and never seen him without the mask.
Right, okay.
I saw him in Brighton last year, and I was like, oh man, respect for like committing to this thing. He's like, what thing?
That's amazing.
I was like, yeah, great. I got spun here.
We absolutely need more of that.
Yeah, and
100%.
just like, I think it's good for people, for there to be a little bit of a curtain and like again pulling that bit back, just even if it's just for fun.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, like the other thing, and the other like sort of important person who relates into sort of wider culture now is Logan Paul on WWE, and you know, YouTubers and kind of influencers, generally speaking, to some degree, fill some of the function that musicians used to in popular culture, right? And Logan Paul to be, he's a heel, and an unbelievably effective heel as well. He absolutely, he plays the character so well. And when we talked about this, off camera, and you know, you made the point that to some degree his persona, his kind of public persona, was already that to some degree, and he's basically doing what he's doing in WWE sort of makes sense and it sort of doesn't, right? And I think the same thing is true for the way a lot of those YouTube channels work anyway, right? They are very kayfabe, you know. What do you think about? I mean, do we need is kayfabe just something that needs to be more of it in music, specifically UK music? Do people need to embrace this?
Well, I think maybe in our world, if you like, let's not talk about the whole of music. Let's say like this banner of maybe underground electronic. We are how that translates now into like social media. It'll be like, okay. Does two dudes wearing black talking compete on the internet?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Like compete on the internet with this level of entertainment. Like how do we bring us our authentic selves or things that we're comfortable doing to the internet and like bring people closer to the music and the art we're interested in creating? No, we don't need to maybe go to extremes of Logan Paul, but there's something like he's saying that the early days of Twitter trolling. Just like it would be nice if you could just continue that in your own way in this era, you know what I mean? And I'd kind of do the same thing even with the Joe Budden Pump It Up. There is like a sense of humor in
that's an example of it actually.
This kind of it's like a running gag more than anything. That's how it's playing out in my world. You see these like topics that come up quite a lot, maybe on my Twitter. The Joe Budden one is one. Or like people will tag me in something like The Rent is the creative director or whatever it's going to be. Like there's like an in joke. Yeah. And I think following...
And crucially, there is a butt of the joke.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Like it's at someone.
Exactly.
Right? And that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And I will be that for someone else. Like, so that's why I don't mind when people in good faith, like attack me, you know, it's fine. Like, I don't mind. But, you know, there's moments where when it's happened, I'm like, it's kind of cool. It's kind of funny. But then if people put something on the internet that, like say like if I'm just like having a curry with my mom, like don't take a photo of me. That's just like a dick move. But if, I don't know, one of the squares is like, I don't know, semi falling off in a cafe, that's kind of funny. Like,
right,
do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a personal attack. It's just like,
sure.
It's like, oh, this make the thing is hanging on the thread. Like, just like Elijah's jokes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, great. Like, it's good to, you have to be able to be made fun of. And like the kind of person that would make fun of me in that way, even if I don't know them, they would know that I think that's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm cool with that. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
Listen, man, this has been great.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Is there anything you want to give a plug to before we go? What have you got coming up which people should know about?
Nothing really, man.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just have the book. If you wanna buy the book, it's called Close That, Make the Ting.
Yeah, I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, that's it. I don't have anything else for anyone anymore.
Well, this has been great, man.
Thank you.
Music, not diving, with Scuba.